I want to introduce you to Rachel, who is at Sea Turtle Inc. in Texas. And she's here to talk because it is Earth Week, and we're here to, this week to think about all the things that we can do to save Mother Earth. And one thing I've noticed since we've all been inside and not driving very much and being out on the roads, you can go outside and you can breathe the air and it's a little cleaner and you can see the stars a little bit better at night because it's a little cleaner. So us being inside has been a kind of a good thing for Mother Earth. And we also know that people are at home and we have some materials that we've been accumulating over time, and some of them is plastic. So Rachel's going to talk to us about plastics and what happens when they make their way to the ocean ecosystem and how it can affect some of the animals. Now, what's really cool about when we connect to Rachel and Kristen at Sea Turtle Inc. is we get to see some real live patients. So you're going to be amazed and you're going to love this. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Rachel, and then I'm going to go back upstairs and share something that I learned from your website. Okay, when you're done.
All right, sounds great.
Over to you.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be talking to you guys today. We'll be talking all about trash and how it affects our oceans. So I am actually currently at Sea Turtle Inc., which is in South Padre Island, Texas. So we're at the very tip of Texas, really, really south. We're actually very close to the Mexican border. So we are a nonprofit organization and Sea Turtle Hospital. So the building that I'm in right downstairs has all of our current patients. We have 11 sea turtles at our hospital right now that are currently being treated for a variety of different reasons. And after this presentation, I'm actually going to walk down there and I'm going to show you some of our patients. So I'm really, really excited. So we're going to start by talking about marine debris, right? So the goal of this presentation is to teach you about trash, but also how to avoid using as much plastic in your life and different ways that we can help the earth. So I'm going to start first by asking you to close your eyes. So take a moment and close your eyes. And I want you to picture the most beautiful beach you can think of. So I want you to relax. I want you to hear the waves, the birds. I want you to feel the sand between your toes, smell that ocean air, that salty smell. And just relax for a second. I want you to open your eyes. The beach, you're probably imagining in your head looks a lot like this, right? So beautiful water, warm, soft sand. And a lot of beaches in the world do look like this, right? But sadly, some of them don't. And when we take a look into the ocean, what we find is a lot of trash. So sadly, there are some beaches in the world that look like this. They're full of trash. And South Padre Island, although it does not look as severe as this beach does, when I patrol the beach, when I'm looking for sick turtles, I see trash all the time. Every single day that I'm out on the beach, I clean up what I see. There's trash everywhere. It can be really overwhelming. And not only is it ugly, right? Like if you go to the beach, you don't want to be staring at the trash. You don't want to set up your towel next to all of this. You want to enjoy the view and enjoy the animals and smell that air and hear those waves and not see this. But also, this trash can be really, really harmful to animals. And that's kind of what we'll be focusing on today. How does trash affect animals? And in our case, we'll be talking about sea turtles. And of course, we're a sea turtle hospital, so it affects every animal truly in the ocean, but I'll be talking specifically about sea turtles. I want you to think about for a second what you think are the most common things found on the beach that should not be there. So I want you to try to list some of those things. Like what kind of trash do you think I see when I go out on the beach every day? Can you think of things like even things that you use every day, trash that people would leave at the beach? Just try to imagine those things before I show you some of them. Because I've participated probably now in hundreds of beach cleanups, right? And we actually gather data on all of that. And what we're able to do is actually calculate what are the most common trash items that we find. I see some of you are saying water bottles. Absolutely, that's definitely one of them. Any other guesses? I can see your chat box if you enter it into there on the screen. So if you have any guesses, I'd love for you to type them in there. So water bottles are definitely one. I see a ton of water bottles out. Okay, I'll show you what the most common ones are. Cans. Cans are one too, of course. So some of them are bottle caps. Bottle caps are one that people forget a lot because bottle caps are so small. So people will actually not even see them sometimes when they're walking out on the beach, but they're so small. So let's pretend that this might have a breathable cup here, but let's pretend that this is a bottle with a bottle cap on top, right? And I just kind of put the bottle cap, excuse me, back on my drink, and then I kind of leave it in the beach and don't pay attention to it. The winds are really strong at the beach, so the cap could just be blown away in seconds, and all of a sudden you lost that cap, right? So that's something that we find all the time. I saw some of you entering some more things like plastic bags. Yeah, plastic bags are one. Straws are a huge one. Straws, like that, bottle caps, are really, really light. So anything that you take to the beach that can be blown away by the wind is really a problem, because if you're not keeping all that in a trash bag or with your belongings, it can just blow away really easily. So straws, cigarette butts. Not only is smoking really bad for you, sadly, there are little plastic filters in cigarettes. So when people throw their cigarettes at the beach, there's plastic in there, and it carries a lot of toxins because of all the bad things in cigarettes. So animals can actually get really, really sick from cigarette butts. So that's a yucky one. A lot of places have banned smoking at their beaches to try to fight this, but some people just still smoke at the beach, sadly. Bags. So some of you said plastic bags. Those are another item because, again, like straws and bottle caps, they're so light, right? So have you ever lost a bag, like when you were opening up a car door, or maybe you're trying to throw it away and the wind blew it? They're so light, right? So they can just be blown away really, really easily. And bottles. So plastic bottles, not only the caps, the bottles are a big problem as well. And then snack wrappers. So a lot of people like to snack at the beach, and they might lose their wrappers, they might leave them there. A lot of different things can happen. So those are 6 of the most common items found at the beach. So around the world, when people do cleanups, they will note how many items they find, and these are 6 of the biggest ones. And so we're going to be talking about marine debris. So marine debris is a very general term for trash found in the ocean, but it's actually so important and such an important cause, not only to people like me, right, who work with sea turtles, but our government has a division that they dedicate completely to fighting this, right? So marine debris is a huge, huge problem. So I'm going to give you a definition just so you can kind of know clearly what it is, because I know marine debris is kind of a weird word. Usually when we talk about trash, we just say trash. But marine debris is specific to the oceans, and it's anything solid or man-made in the oceans or Great Lakes. We like to include the lakes in there since a lot of people use the Great Lakes. That is not supposed to be there. Now, something important to note about this is that anything that we use does not get disposed of properly can actually end up as marine debris, right? And something that I always like to tell people that's really, really important to note is not everybody litters on purpose, right? So sometimes things happen on accident. You might be holding a water bottle, and like I said, the wind might come, or you might leave a snack on the beach and a wave comes. Not all littering is intentional. Mistakes happen all the time. But that doesn't mean that animals can't get sick from it, right? And we still categorize that as marine debris. So we still follow that definition. It just means that somebody isn't doing it on purpose. So kind of what I was just saying, like if you end up accidentally littering, it's completely okay. We all make mistakes, right? So I know I've lost a pair of flip-flops at the beach before. Has it ever happened to you? But what we need to do is learn from those lessons, right? If you lose a pair of flip-flops, know that next time maybe you need to put your flip-flops by the dunes or in a bag and secure your items, right? We all make mistakes. It's perfectly fine. The problem is that there's way too much trash out in the oceans, right? Because it's not just people doing things accidentally, some people sadly do it on purpose. So this is what trash looks like when it's floating in the water. And you'll notice some of those items that you guys mentioned before, right? So you can see that plastic bottle floating. You can actually see a plastic bag. This picture really shows what trash looks like in the ocean. Now, I've been to some very beautiful places in the world, and sadly, no place is safe from trash. Now, I've been to the Galapagos Islands. I actually spent a semester there when I was younger in college. Now, if you have ever heard of the Galapagos Islands, that's where Charles Darwin, right, visited to develop his theory of evolution. Now, this is supposed to be one of the most beautiful places in the world, but guess what? I found a Gatorade bottle one time while I was doing research in the water. So it happens everywhere. It's not just certain places in the world. Everywhere in the world is affected by trash. And I saw that one of you actually typed about microplastics. It's awesome that you know what a microplastic is. For those of you who don't know, microplastics are teeny tiny pieces of plastic. Now, sometimes they're made that small. So there are some products in beauty and cosmetics, right? Like a facial scrub or something like that, that has those teeny tiny pieces of plastic. So they're made to be that small. But microplastics also defines plastics that started out big, so let's say a plastic bag, and over time, wave action and the wind and rocks kind of breaks it down into teeny tiny little pieces. So it's not just made that way. All plastic will actually eventually break down into microplastics. Plastic in general cannot actually dissolve in the water. It will only ever break apart into smaller and smaller pieces. So this is what a sample of microplastics looks like. You'll see it's really hard to identify sometimes where that plastic came from because it's so teeny, teeny, tiny. Next time you visit a beach, I urge you to take your hand and pick up a sample of sand and kind of examine it. A lot of the times I find these teeny, tiny little pieces of plastic. I think sometimes people think they're shells, they're other marine life, but a lot of the times it's just teeny, tiny pieces of plastic. Now, how many of you have actually heard about the Pacific Garbage Patch? This became really famous because some footage actually came out about this garbage patch and people had no idea that it existed. I actually met the person who found this garbage patch. His name is Captain Charles Moore. This garbage patch was formed because out in the ocean, there are tons of currents, right? And these currents can actually make these big, big systems called gyres. What happens is, what you can see kind of in the picture, it's kind of a huge circulating system. And at the center of that system, a bunch of solid material gathers. This is because there's all this kind of circular action. So if you kind of were going like this in the pool, you know how you kind of get that center part that's still? That's what happens out into the ocean. So trash actually gathers at these areas. Now, a lot of people think that there's huge pieces of plastic floating out there, and there are. But Captain Charles Moore, who was the one that found this garbage patch, actually told me that it actually more looks like plastic soup. So it's more microplastics that are out in these garbage patches. And that sounds good because you're like, oh, well, you don't want big pieces of trash out there. But that makes it really hard to clean up these areas. Because if you imagine if I had a big bowl of little plastic pieces, right, it'd be really hard to filter those out from the water. But if I just had, let's say I have some Clorox wipes over here, if this was just floating in a bowl of water, I could just take this out and say, done, I've cleaned it up, right? So cleaning up little tiny pieces of plastic from water is actually really difficult. And that's why these garbage patches are so difficult to clean up. And so this is called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And there are people who are doing a ton of research out there. So they take samples, they're trying to clean it up. There's a lot of great work being done, but sadly it does exist. And this is what it kind of looks like. What you'll notice is there's a darker blue section in the middle. That's where most of the trash gathers. And this garbage patch is so, so big. It's more than twice the size of Texas. And Texas is enormous. So just imagine you're on a boat and you're looking out and all you see is this plastic soup for miles and miles. It's a sad thing, but as I said, there's a lot of work being done to kind of help the situation. Now, I want you to try to guess how many pieces of trash are in the ocean. Now, I know this is a hard question, but I just want you to be creative and say a number, right? Like, do you think it's 1 million pieces? Do you think it's 1 billion pieces? How many pieces of trash do you think are in the ocean? Let's take a wild guess. I would love to know. Give you a couple seconds to think about that one. I had no idea. I'm seeing some numbers coming in. Infinity. What do you guys think the number is? I was completely off when I said this. I said a couple billion. The answer is over 5.25 trillion pieces of plastic. Now, it's really hard for us to even try to picture that, right? Like, what is a trillion? It's really, really hard for us to imagine that in our heads. So I'm going to give you a visual that helps with that. I want you to think about all the coastlines in the world, right? So not just the East Coast or the Canadian coast or here, just all the coastlines in the world. If we were all going out to the ocean to clean up all of this trash and put it into black trash bags, we could actually line the entire coast of all the world, not just one time, not just two times, not just three times, four times. No, it's actually 5 times. So 5 stacks of trash bags around all the world's coast would be enough to clean up how much trash is out there in the ocean. That's a crazy amount, right? So you can see why it's so important to start trying to prevent the trash from entering the ocean in the first place. So that's a lot of information about trash. I know it's a lot to take in and try to process, but I'm going to switch it over to turtles now so you can understand how this trash relates to animals. That picture I'm showing you right there, what do you think that is, that yellow object? It's been shredded from being in the ocean and from being in the air. That'll be a hint. It was in the air previously. What do you think it is? This is a tough one. Balloon, Maddie. Maddie, you said balloon. You're completely right. It is a balloon. So when I was younger, I used to have balloons at my birthday party, and I never knew what would happen to balloons when I released them. I would watch them go up in the air and I'd say bye to the balloon, and I never really think about it. I thought they floated away forever. That was what I thought, right? But I've since learned that that's wrong. What happens to balloons is they go up in the air, they pop, shred, and come right back down to the earth. And because most of the earth is made up of water, they sadly end up in the oceans a lot of the time. If they do come on land, they can also cause a lot of damage. Like they can get stuck in power lines or they can affect land animals. But in the case of sea turtles, they can actually eat these balloons when they're in the water. Now I know what you're thinking. Why would they eat a balloon, right? They should know the difference. Leatherback sea turtles, which is the largest species of sea turtle in the world, actually feed exclusively on jellyfish. Now I want you to look at that yellow object, that balloon. Do you see how it kind of looks like tentacles? Yeah, so in the water, when it's floating, it looks a lot like a jellyfish. So sea turtles mistake these balloons for food all the time. And something to keep in mind about sea turtles is the size of their brain. Now, your brains are pretty big, right? You go like this, it's about the size of your brain. Sea turtle brains, I want you to guess how big they are. How big do you think a sea turtle brain is? This big, bigger than our brain? How big do you think a sea turtle brain is? Give you a second to think about that. A walnut. Maddie thinks a walnut. Any other guesses? It's a tough one. Especially when you think about sea turtles being so heavy, right? Some sea turtles can grow to over 1,000 pounds. Any other guesses? I want you to wiggle your thumb like this. That's how big a sea turtle brain is. A sea turtle brain is about the size of a grape. A grape! Can you imagine? That's pretty small, right? So I think they're really cool creatures, but you can imagine if your brain was the size of a grape, you'd be mistaking things like trash for food all the time. And sadly, they do. And this picture really shows that, right? Take a look at those two images, that plastic bag versus that jellyfish. They look really similar. And if your brain was the size of a grape, it'd be really easy to mistake them. This is actually an image taken by a really famous photographer. His name is Ben Hicks. He photographs sea turtles all the time. Now, he had said prior to this picture, he had never actually witnessed a sea turtle attempting to eat trash. He had seen sea turtles die from eating trash, but never seen it in person. And so what he was able to capture was a sea turtle going after a plastic bag. And this image is really, really powerful because he was able to share it with the public and tell them, this is real, this is actually happening. Now, luckily, Ben is a really great person. And right after he took this picture, he ran and snatched that bag out of the water so that sea turtle couldn't eat it, which is a great thing. Something else to keep in mind, not only are plastic bags a problem and balloons, other forms of trash. Now, you guys remember when we talked about microplastics. Nurdles, which is a super silly word, nurdles refers to these tiny little pieces of plastic. They're little plastic pellets that are used in manufacturing. So for example, this Clorox bottle of wipes I have right here, to make this larger piece of plastic, they melt down those little plastic pellets and it becomes larger pieces of plastic. In some places, they're actually legally allowed to release these nurdles into the environment. And when you compare those to parrotfish eggs, they look very similar, right? But I could definitely not tell the difference. So of course, other animals can't either. And animals eat different pellets all the time, right? So, or sorry, excuse me, eat eggs all the time. So you can imagine for them, they can't tell the difference. We can't tell the difference. So it's really, really tough. And if you guys like seafood, something to keep in mind about seafood is that predators like sharks, right, or bigger fish like a tuna, if you eat tuna, they eat smaller fish. That smaller fish maybe eats a crustacean like a shrimp, and then shrimp will eat, other smaller animals. So it's kind of like that food chain aspect of it. If a tuna is eating plastic and you eat that tuna, you could also be ingesting trash. So it's really important to keep in mind about seafood. Not only does it affect these animals, it affects us too. Because if you eat seafood, you could be eating plastic too. So it's always important to keep that in mind. Now, for sea turtles, not only do they eat trash, they can also get entangled in it. So this is a photo of a sea turtle entangled in a net. So fishing gear is a huge problem for sea turtles because they're often disposed of improperly out into the ocean, right? So people will just throw them in the water and sea turtles can get entangled in it. And we see sea turtles all the time at our hospital that come in due to entanglements, often because of fishing lines. Fishing lines is a huge problem for us here at Sea Turtle Inc. So these are photos of some of our patients that came in due to entanglements. So you can see the net on the top left, and in the bottom right, you can see that sea turtle was actually entangled in fishing line, and you can see the little buoy that was used. So really, really sad thing to see. Now this is a photo of one of our current patients, which I'm going to show you once we go back downstairs. His name is Serectus. Now Serectus is a very special turtle because he is actually completely missing his back left flipper completely, and his right front flipper is only partially there. Now he came into the hospital like this, so we don't know exactly what happened, but oftentimes when a sea turtle is missing a flipper or two, it is either due to a predator attack, or an entanglement. So we see patients come into our hospital that are so severely entangled in fishing line that it actually causes their flippers to fall off because the tissue just dies and it falls off. So we don't know exactly if that's what happened to Serectus, but we have seen patients come through our hospital where that did happen. And it's really sad because they'll wash up with the fishing line still entangled around their flippers and it's sort of falling off. But luckily, sea turtles are very, very cool animals. And guess what? They can be released if they're missing one flipper. Two flippers is a little bit trickier. Luckily for Serectus, he's really, really great, and he's learned how to swim without that flipper and not only having that partial one up front. So we're expecting to release him in the next couple of months. So sea turtles can actually learn to live without a flipper or two, which is pretty cool. So we at Sea Turtle Inc., we rescue, we rehabilitate, and we release patients. So we exclusively focus on sea turtles, and we mostly get Atlantic green sea turtles, which if you've ever seen Finding Nemo, you'll know those sea turtles were actually green sea turtles. And we help them in a variety of different ways. We can give them shots, right? We can help their wounds. We can do surgeries. There's a lot of different things that we do. It really just depends on the patient. And you'll notice that bottom right photo that's actually showing a turtle entangled in a net. And so that's what it looks like when we go to pick them up. And then, of course, we'll bring them back to the hospital and give them proper treatment. So if you guys don't like getting shots, I definitely don't like getting shots. I still cry when I get a shot. I know I'm 25 years old and I still cry when I get a shot. But our sea turtles get shots and they don't really like it either. So it actually takes a whole person to hold down that patient and give them a shot. They're really, really strong. So even if they only weigh like 7 or 8 pounds, it takes all of my strength to hold down those turtles. But these shots are really important because they really help these turtles heal and get better. So they're really necessary for us to continue their treatment. And then, of course, my favorite part is release. So we release over 90% of our patients back to the wild. It's my favorite part because that moment of putting them back into the water and seeing how excited they get to just be free in the ocean is really beautiful. It's a feeling I can't describe, but going from rescuing a turtle to releasing it is a beautiful process. So one of the number one questions I always get is, well, how can I help sea turtles directly, right? Number one, reducing your single use. Now, reduce your single use is kind of a catchy phrase, but think about all the things in your life that you use once, right? Is it really necessary to have all those things, right? Why not have things like reusable bags or reusable water bottles? These are really great things that you can be using in your life that'll help. Because remember, not all littering is intentional. So you might not be throwing trash in the ocean. It might just be that it accidentally gets there. Even on the way to the garbage dump, right? It might blow away. So keep that in mind. Cleanups are really important. So as I mentioned, I do cleanups all the time. Now, if you don't live right by the ocean, I'm actually from Pennsylvania, which is landlocked. So I live nowhere close to the ocean. I would still do cleanups because all rivers lead to the ocean, right? So if all rivers lead to the ocean, by cleaning your rivers and cleaning your local areas, you're helping the oceans. So keep that in mind too. Cleanups are great no matter where you do them. And even if you're, cleaning up a plastic bag that's just floating out near a park, you might have just saved a bird's life. You might have just saved the life of another animal. It doesn't have to be just sea turtles. And reusable water bottles. So as I mentioned, I use this guy all the time, holds my water, and you're reducing your use over time. So really great things to use. And recycling is really important. So if you recycle in your life, that's really, really important. And reusing. So even if you can't necessarily have something like this, right? Reusing something once or twice is better than using it only one time. And balloons we talked about. So I hope in the future you don't release balloons because they're really harmful to the environment. I know it's tough because we're used to releasing them, right? But we have to learn how to correct those behaviors so we can really help out our wildlife. And Earth Day is coming up, so that's exciting. We're excited to celebrate Earth Day here, and I'm excited to be celebrating it with you. It's in 2 days, so this is kind of our pre-Earth Day celebration, so thank you so much for tuning in. Now, that concludes the presentation, which sounds bad, but it's actually good, right? Because I'm going to take you downstairs to see our sea turtle patients. So I'm going to walk down there now. Excuse me while I get up here and try to walk. We have 11 patients at our hospital, so hopefully you'll be able to see them all. Now I'm going to try to pull up the chat box without blocking your view of the turtles. That way I can answer any questions that you guys might have. Now, I've never used this program before. We usually use Zoom, which is a different type of program for online learning. So I'm still learning how to use it, but hopefully you'll be able to get some good views of our turtles.
So Rachel, if you could
Yes.
stop sharing your screen, that would be great. And then we'll be able to see a full view when when you show the turtles.
Oh, yes, let me do that. Stop sharing.
There you
There
go.
we go. Are you guys seeing just me now? Does that work?
Yep. And
All
can
right.
you see the chat?
Let me pull it up. I think it's the corner.
So you just,
Here we go. Now I'm seeing. Is it blocking your view now?
no.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let me show you some of our patients. Let me go to Tank over here. I'm going to actually show you our newest patient. His name is Rue. Let's see where he's hanging out. Rue, oh, he's on the other side of the tank. Now, Rue actually has a disease called fibropapillomatosis. Now, that's a crazy word, but it's actually a herpes virus. So it causes tumors to grow all over our patients. And it's a sad thing to see, but luckily it's treatable because we can give them surgery to remove these tumors. Let me try to turn my camera around here. Oh, I just slipped it. 1 second. If not, I can just switch it around. That's really no worry. I'll do it this way. So can you guys see the turtle down there? So that's Rue. Now, what you'll notice with Rue is Rue's actually really skinny. So we actually have to tube feed Rue, which is something we don't really like to do as it stresses out the animal. And it's pretty stressful for us. But when they're this skinny, we really need them to be eating, and she's not eating on her own. Oh, but she's coming up to take a breath, so hopefully you're getting a good view of that. So that's Rue. And I'll show you some of our other patients over here. Let's see if any of them, our tanks are pretty big, which is good because it allows them to swim around, but sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to see. So let me guess.
Jean-Paul wants to know how you know their names.
Each unique. Because I work with them every day, I identify them right by their shell. But what we'll do is when we have a ton of patients, we will actually write their names on their shell, something that we can scrape off before we release them to be able to identify them. Good question. So they're kind of unique, just like other animals are. So here is another one of our patients. Hope you guys can see that well. This is Buddy. So Buddy came in because he was actually stuck in the rocks at the jetties. We have jetties on either side of our island, and these jetties people use for fishing. And that's actually where we find a lot of our patients because people will accidentally hook sea turtles, or they'll get entangled in their fishing line, or they'll get stuck in those rocks. So Buddy's receiving treatment for his injuries on his shell that you can see on top. Hold him there. And here we have another one of our patients, this is El Tigre. So El Tigre is actually a return patient, which is not very common. We rarely see sea turtles come back to our hospital. Now, the reason we know he returned is because we give all of our sea turtles pit tags. These pit tags are like what you'd give a dog or a cat. It allows us to scan their flipper for this tag. It gives us a number, and we have that number in our system, and we can say, oh, that was one of our former patients, El Tigre. So he's actually returned. He was stuck in the rocks again for a second time and still receiving treatment.
So Ave wants to know what do turtles eat?
What do turtles eat? So these are Atlantic green sea turtles. Out in the wild, they enjoy a bunch of different things. When they're young, they kind of try out a lot of different kinds of food. Once they're grown, so they can actually grow to around 500 pounds, they mostly feed on algae and seagrass. So they love their veggies. We feed our turtles here at the facility zucchini, cucumber, bell pepper. We also give them seafood in the morning for protein since they're being treated. So they will actually get mackerel, which is a fish, squid, and shrimp. So they eat lots of things. This is El Tigre. He's very curious. They actually just got their afternoon snack. They got some lettuce actually today. their buddy and Altigra. I'll show you some of our other patients, which are actually a different species of sea turtle. So those are Atlantic greens, and I'm going to show you a Kemp's Ridley sea turtle. Kemp's Ridley sea turtles are very special to us because they happen to nest right here on South Padre Island. Nesting season has just started, so we actually have 3 nests so far, which is really exciting. Last year we had 50 nests, and these turtles will come here, lay their nests, and we protect them because there's a lot of predators out on the island that can affect them. So they come here to nest, but sometimes we have patients that are Kemp's Ridleys. So I'll show you one of those right now. Let's see if this is actually Comet. It's a little bit difficult to see because of the water popping out. He likes to hang out here because this is where the current starts. We put a current in the tank. That way they can get some exercise, right? So they're not just sitting at the bottom of the tank. They have to fight the current to kind of swim around. It helps them build muscles and be strong. So when they're released, they're ready for the ocean. He's a little bit difficult to see, but he's actually one of our larger patients. The other patients you were seeing only weigh about 8 or 9 pounds. Comet weighs around 30 pounds. There's another Kemp's Ridley patient actually over here that I'll be able to show you. Oh, it got turned around. So this is also a Kemp's Ridley sea turtle. You can see their shell looks a lot different than the other patients you were seeing. So they've got kind of a gray, sometimes it can look a little bit tan shell. And they actually eat crabs mostly out in the wild. They don't eat veggies at all. So they eat those crabs, they hunt them down in seconds. They're great hunters. They actually have a hooked beak that allows them to hunt their prey. So this is Neptune. Neptune came in. The person who actually called Neptune in thought that it was dead because he wasn't moving at all. But luckily, Neptune was alive and is receiving treatment for a variety of different reasons. He's got some scratches and some injuries on his shell, but he just really came in weak, and so we were able to help him in that way, but he'll probably be here for another month or 2 before we release him. Really, really beautiful turtle. Let me see if you guys have any other questions. 50 or 15? 15. Any other questions that you guys have about our hospital or sea turtles in general? I can try to answer them. Let me go back up and see if there are any questions that I missed.
I'm just wondering, can you show us the turtle who doesn't have the flipper?
Yes, so Serectus is actually in the back of the tank where El Tigre and Buddy were, but of course, it's a little bit difficult to see. So I'll try to show you. There's a glare. You can kind of see him over there. Let me see. Let's see. He's in the back of the tank over there, right underneath where the glare is on the tank. It's a little bit difficult to see. Looks like he's looking for some scraps or some food. He's actually he gained weight so quickly we had to reduce his diet. So we don't want them to gain or lose weight too quickly. So with Serectus, we had to reduce his diet a little bit because he was gaining weight really, really rapidly. Kind of see him back there. These two are a lot more curious, so they'll come up closer. But Serectus is they're in the back of the tank. Now we're able to pair them together because this species isn't too aggressive. So, oh, there's Serectus. You can see him a little bit better now. There you are, buddy. You can see his missing flipper as well as partial flipper there. Serectus. There we go. Serectus. So here's the 3. Oh, so as I was saying, we can pair them up in the tank because they won't bite each other or anything. But the Kemp's Ridleys, which were the other patients I showed you, we can't actually put in the same tank because they will be too aggressive. So they'll start biting each other. But these greens are a little friendlier, so we're able to pair them up. Someone said their dad's favorite animal is a turtle. That's wonderful news. I love sea turtles as well.
Now, do you have any questions about any of the sea turtles and maybe
Let me
how
know.
they get rescued or how do you rescue a turtle?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to answer that. So, actually, most of our patients are called in by the public. So, it's people who are here visiting on the island and they'll come across a turtle stranded and they know to call us. So, they'll call us, we'll ask them to stay there with that animal until they're ready or until we're ready. We'll come and pick it up and bring it back here to the hospital. Because something to keep in mind about sea turtles is if they're out on the beach, right? So, out on the sand, it's always for a reason. Now, if you've ever visited places like Hawaii or somewhere like that, there are turtles that come up on the beach to kind of have some sun and hang out, but that's very much just a Hawaii thing. And so here on South Padre Island, that doesn't happen. So if you see a sea turtle here, it's because it's either sick or injured or it's nesting. And we cover all of those. So we always tell people to call us because you might have seen some videos of people releasing turtles that they find stranded out on the beach, right? So they'll pick them up and they'll just put them back into the water. And I know that sounds like the right thing to do, but if you're ever in that situation, you should try to find out if there's a sea turtle hospital near you because that turtle's probably sick or injured. Sometimes they have problems that we get, right? So, like, our turtles can have pneumonia. Oops. And so, if that happens, it can be a problem that we can treat, right? But you can't really see until we take an x-ray. So always important to keep in mind.
And Maddie says
Anybody else
you
have any
guys are
questions?
so nice.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you for watching. Anybody have any other questions? Let me see if I missed any.
No, I think those are all the questions. And I know that you need to go in a minute, but I just wanted to show the students. Oops. I'm just going to share something that I learned from the Sea Turtle Inc.'s website. So, because it's Earth Week and because we have we have some artists and authors that are coming to talk to us about using recycled materials. I went into our recycling and I got some craft materials and I made a little turtle
Wow.
of what do you think this is made from, boys and girls? I'll show you it from its other side. And this side. And this side. So this is all recycled egg cartons, that's right. And a paper plate. And those were in my recycling. So how did I learn how to do this? Well, let me show you. So I was on Sea Turtle Inc.'s website last night, and I'm going to share my screen. And go to my web page. And I'm on connectednorth.org at home. And I'm going to go to additional resources. And I'm going to, I could go to Sea Turtle Inc. right up here, but Kristen told me what I could find there, and it was amazing. So I'm going to go to where I see the sea turtle. Do you know which one this is?
That's Allison, our sea turtle with a prosthesis.
Yeah. And I'm going to go there, and it brings up all the resources. And I have which one? Creative Critters, maybe, or Create Your Own Sea Turtle. I think it was this one. And it gave me some ideas on how to make a sea turtle. So I use that as my inspiration to make, I'm going to call him Nerdle because I don't want anyone to use microplastics. So when I see Nerdle, I'm going to remind myself not to use micro stuff with microplastics in it and to keep all the plastics in the recycling where they belong, not on the ground. So that's how you can get to some of those resources. And they have lots of things on there. They have, this was really cool. You can pretend that you're stuffed animal is a patient, and you can fill in um, all of the information about your stuffed animal. It's really cool. There's some really cool resources there for you guys. So I want to thank Rachel. Oops. I want to thank Rachel for connecting in. Oh, see, you're growing seeds in egg cartons. See, that's great. That's using recycled materials. So save your recycled materials, boys and girls, for Wednesday and Thursday. And because we're going to help the sea turtles and keep all of the garbage out of the ocean. And thank you, Rachel, for showing us those amazingly beautiful animals. And I agree with Maddie that you're all very kind there to look after the creatures from Mother Earth who need our help.
Thank you so, so much. And I hope that you'll be sea turtle protectors like me forever. So I promise you that. So thank you so, so much.
Okay, thanks, Rachel.
Thank you. Bye. Have a lovely day.
Okay, bye-bye. And see you guys tomorrow in Connected North.